The rain fell in relentless sheets, drumming on the windshield of the sleek black sedan as Emma sat quietly beside Daniel. The city lights blurred through the droplets, creating a tapestry of gold and red that seemed almost surreal. Inside the car, tension hummed like a live wire. Daniel, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, was focused, calculating, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon their lives. Emma had always known Daniel was ambitious, a rising star in the legal world. He moved with purpose and precision, leaving little room for error. She had loved him, adored him even, but sometimes she felt invisible in the glare of his growing success. Tonight, though, she had smiled, her laughter echoing softly at the dinner party they had just left, a party full of influential lawyers and polished clients, who spoke in veiled compliments and subtle challenges. The drive home was meant to be uneventful, a calm after the social storm. But fate has a way of unraveling even the most meticulously planned moments. A flash of movement caught Daniel's eye. It happened in a heartbeat. A young woman, alone, crossing the road. Daniel swerved instinctively, the tires screeching against the slick asphalt. But the car was too fast, too heavy, and she was too fragile. The impact was sudden, violent, and final. Emma screamed. Daniel's face went pale, his knuckles white as he pressed against the wheel. The world outside the car seemed to tilt, time stretching impossibly. They stepped out into the rain, their shoes slipping on the wet pavement, and there she lay, the girl, motionless, her dark hair plastered to her face. "Call an ambulance," Emma shouted, but her voice trembled. Daniel's voice cracked. Didn't she just appeared? I swear." Emma turned to him, her mind racing. She saw the panic, the fear, the career he had built with such careful hands hanging by a thread. And in that instant, her decision was made. "I'll take the blame," she said quietly, her eyes locking on his. "What, Emma? No, I can't let you. You have to. Your career, your future. Let me carry this," she insisted, her voice firm despite the quiver of fear. The sound of approaching sirens sealed her fate. Emma stepped forward, ready to confess, ready to bear the consequences for a crime she had not committed. The trial was swift. Emma's confession left little room for doubt. Evidence, witness statements, and the unfortunate circumstances of the accident all aligned perfectly with her story. Daniel attended every hearing, his face a mask of conflicting emotions: gratitude, guilt, love, but he never spoke the truth. The courtroom became her world, a place of harsh lights and harsher judgments. Convicted of manslaughter, she was sentenced to several years in prison. Her life, once full of promise and hope, was reduced to cold concrete walls and barred windows. Days bled into nights, each indistinguishable from the last, a monotonous cycle that dulled the spirit. Months passed. Emma adjusted to the rhythm of prison life, though she felt the weight of isolation keenly. Then, one morning, a persistent nausea shook her from her routine. The prison doctor confirmed what she had not anticipated. She was pregnant. A mix of fear and wonder surged through her. The child was Daniel's, conceived in the fragile moments before tragedy struck, a living connection to a life she had loved and lost. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt a flicker of hope. The months crawled by, and Emma endured the pregnancy behind bars, shielded only by the indifferent walls of the institution. When the time came, she gave birth to a baby girl. She reached for her, expecting the warmth of a tiny life against her chest. But the nurse's face was grim. The words hit her like a hammer. The baby had died during birth. Emma screamed, a raw, shattering sound that reverberated through the sterile room. Her child, her reason to endure, was gone. The life she had imagined, the connection she had dreamed of, vanished in an instant. Meanwhile, far from the gray walls and metal bars, a storm of a different kind was brewing. Lily, the girl hit by the car, had a fiancé named Adrian. Devastated by her death, he sank into grief that soon curdled into anger. The world had stolen her from him, and he refused to let the one responsible go unpunished. Through whispers and connections, Adrian discovered the truth of the child born in prison. Emma's daughter had survived, taken from her under the guise of death. Using his influence, he obtained custody of the infant, a cruel trophy of revenge and a way to keep the memory of Lily alive. Years passed. Emma's release came quietly. Daniel's life had continued upward. He had married another, moved on, while she emerged from the prison gates alone, scarred and uncertain of her place in the world. She drifted, anonymous, and eventually found work as a cleaner, a life of quiet survival. It was in this humdrum existence that fate intervened again. Emma was hired to clean a large, opulent house, the home of Adrian, the man whose life had been touched by the same tragedy, whose grief had been her indirect punishment. Within those walls, she saw her daughter for the first time. Bright eyes, dark hair, and a smile that resonated in her heart, as if it remembered her from some forgotten dream. Emma froze, the mop slipping from her hands, disbelief clawing at her chest. Adrian watched her carefully, He had built a life with this child, raising her with love and grief interwoven. Yet he sensed a storm approaching, one that would shake the carefully constructed walls around his heart. Emma's world, once defined by loss and guilt, suddenly became a landscape of hope and peril. She had found her daughter, but reclaiming her would not be simple. The city felt different after prison. Even the familiar streets seemed unfamiliar to Emma, as though the world had moved on without her. The air was sharp with the scent of rain and exhaust, but to her it carried the weight of memory's steel bars. Endless gray walls, the hollow echo of lost time. She walked with careful steps, avoiding the crowds, keeping her head low. Daniel's absence was a constant ache, a reminder that the man she had loved had chosen convenience over truth. He had married, advanced his career, and erased the chapter of their lives together as though it had never existed. Emma found work as a cleaner in the offices of wealthy clients, a job that required no questions, no connections, only diligence. She moved through her tasks silently, letting her thoughts drift, her mind returning to the child she had been told had died. Every night, she pictured her daughter's face, imagined the tiny hands that should have clutched hers, the sound of a laugh that never came. It was a Monday morning when her path collided with fate. She had been assigned to clean the mansion of Adriana, a man whose face she did not yet know, but whose presence would soon define her every waking thought. The mansion was sprawling, filled with expensive furniture and the hum of quiet wealth. As Emma swept the floors of the grand hall, she noticed movement at the top of the stairs. A little girl, no older than 5, descended with cautious steps, her dark hair catching the light, her eyes bright and curious. Emma froze. Something about the child was hauntingly familiar. The curve of her smile, the tilt of her head, it struck a chord deep within Emma's chest. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the world around her vanished. The girl's gaze met hers. A spark of recognition, or was it intuition, flickered in the child's eyes. "Hello," she said shyly, her voice soft but clear. Emma nodded, unable to speak. She moved on, sweeping around the girl, her hands trembling as she realized the impossible truth: this was her daughter. Adrian had noticed the hesitation. He had hired many employees over the years, but something about Emma unsettled him. There was a weight to her presence, a quiet intensity that did not belong to ordinary staff. He observed her from a distance, his thoughts a mix of caution and curiosity. The child, his daughter, had begun asking questions about the woman who seemed to appear at every corner, her eyes soft but haunted. Adrian tried to dismiss it, to reason it away, but he could not ignore the growing tension, the invisible connection that pulsed like a hidden current between mother and child. Days turned into weeks. Emma's routine remained the same: cleaning, observing, avoiding interaction beyond polite greetings. Yet the girl Lily, as she had been named by Adrian, was drawn to her. She would sneak into rooms to talk, asking questions about the world, about stories, about things Emma had longed to explain. Emma's heart ached with every word. She taught Lily quietly, carefully, never revealing the truth, yet allowing small gestures, a hand on the shoulder, a shared laugh, to forge a bond that transcended deception. Adrian began to notice changes in Lily. She would linger near Emma, talk about imaginary friends that mirrored her mother, ask questions that revealed a subtle awareness. Suspicion gnawed at him, but he could not yet confront it. He had built his life around the lie, and confronting it might shatter everything he had held on to. Emma struggled with her own emotions. She longed to tell the child the truth, to reach across the years lost and reclaim what had been taken from her. Yet fear held her back: the fear of Adrian, the fear of losing the child completely, the fear of shattering the fragile bond she had built. Every glance at Lily was a dagger of both joy and pain. Emma remembered holding her newborn in her imagination, imagining the tiny fingers and soft cries. And now she was here, living, breathing, a mirror of what she had lost and loved. Daniel's name occasionally crossed her mind. She wondered if he ever thought of her, if he ever regretted the lie she had carried for him. But those thoughts were fleeting, overshadowed by the pressing reality before her: the child she loved more than life itself, and the man who guarded her so fiercely. It happened unexpectedly. Emma had been cleaning the study when Adrian entered. He had noticed subtle hints: the way Lily lingered, the way her laughter followed Emma. His suspicion had grown into certainty. "Emma," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel, "we need to talk." Emma froze, her heart hammering. She nodded, setting down her cleaning supplies, and followed him to the study. The room was quiet, opulent, but the air was thick with tension. "I know," he began slowly, "that you're connected to her. To Lily. I don't know how, but I can feel it. Tell me, what is your relationship with her?" Emma swallowed, fighting the surge of emotion. She could not lie anymore, but revealing the truth outright could destroy the fragile peace she had built. She reminds me of someone I loved," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can't explain it fully, but she She matters to me. Adrian's gaze was sharp, unyielding. Emma, I've raised her. I've protected her. If there's any truth to this, I need to know it now. For her sake and mine. Emma looked down, tears threatening to spill. The moment had come to face the consequences of years of silence. That night, Emma returned to her modest apartment. The city skyline stretched out before her, lights twinkling like distant stars. She thought of Lily, of Adrian, of the years lost to prison walls, of the daughter she had never held. A storm raged inside her, grief, love, hope, and fear intertwined in a complicated dance. She knew that reclaiming her daughter would not be easy. Adrian's anger, the lies of the past, the fear of losing Lily forever, they all stood in her way. Yet one truth remained undeniable. Her heart belonged to that little girl. Every fiber of her being ached to protect her, to nurture her, to reclaim what had been stolen. And for the first time in years, Emma felt a spark of determination. She would fight. The days that followed were filled with a delicate tension. Emma moved through Adrian's mansion with a careful grace, tending to her duties while the weight of her secret pressed on her chest like a stone. Lily's laughter echoed through the hallways, a haunting reminder of what had been taken from her. Emma watched the girl from afar, tracing the curve of her smile, the sparkle in her eyes, every detail seared into her memory. Adrian, meanwhile, was consumed by a growing unease. Emma's presence in their lives was no longer a matter of chance. Every glance exchanged between mother and daughter, every fleeting touch, made him question the narrative he had built for years. Despite the barriers, Emma and Lily grew closer. Small moments helping with schoolwork, reading bedtime stories, sharing quiet laughter built a bridge that neither time nor deceit could sever. Emma's heart ached with longing, and she found herself imagining a life where she could claim her daughter without fear. But Adrian's vigilance was unwavering. He noticed the way Lily's eyes followed Emma, the subtle comfort she found in her presence. His anger, however, was tempered by a complex mixture of love and guilt. He had lost Lily's mother, but in raising her daughter, he had found a purpose of fragile tether to the woman he had loved and lost. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, Emma could no longer bear the weight of silence. She gathered the courage to confront Adrian, to speak the truth that had been buried for years. "Adrian," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "There's something you need to know. Lily, she is my daughter." Adrian's expression hardened, disbelief and fury warring in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I gave birth to her in prison," Emma continued, her voice rising with emotion. "I was told she had died, but she didn't. You took her. I've waited years to see her, to protect her, and now she's here, living. Please, let me explain." The room fell silent, the tension so thick it seemed to choke the air. Adrian's hands tightened into fist, his jaw clenched. "You expect me to believe this? After everything? You waltz back into my life and claim what is mine?" Emma took a deep breath. "She's not yours in the sense you think. She's our daughter. My child. I didn't take her from you. I didn't even know she was alive. But now that I do, I can't walk away." Adrian's mind raced. He had raised Lily as his own, nurtured her, loved her with every fiber of his being. But the truth was undeniable. The woman before him, weary but determined, was her mother. The reality of what had been hidden for years tore at him, forcing him to confront the moral and emotional implications of his choices. "You're asking me to give her to you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma nodded. "I'm asking for her. Yes. Not to hurt you, not to punish you, but because she is my daughter. She deserves to know me." The ensuing days were filled with tense negotiations, legal consultations, and emotional confrontations. Emma's determination, combined with evidence of her identity and the cruel deception she had endured, gradually swayed the balance. Adrian remained a protective father, but even he could not ignore the truth. As weeks passed, a fragile truce emerged. Lily, still too young to understand the complexities, embraced both her mother and the father she had always known. Emma's presence became a source of comfort rather than disruption, and the house, once filled with the heavy weight of secrets, began to feel warmer, lighter. Adrian, though still wary, recognized the importance of allowing Emma to reclaim her place in Lily's life. Their interactions, initially tense and formal, gradually softened into mutual respect, guided by the shared love for the child. Emma and Lily spent hours together, exploring the city, reading books, and sharing stories of the past. Emma reveled in every moment, determined to make up for the years lost. She taught Lily games, songs, and whispered words of love, instilling a sense of belonging that had been denied to them, both for too long. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the tall windows, Lily climbed onto Emma's lap, wrapping her tiny arms around her neck. "Mommy," she whispered, testing the word. Emma's heart shattered and mended all at once. Tears streamed down her face as she held her daughter close. "Yes, darling. Mommy," she murmured, feeling a lifetime of pain and longing dissolve in that single embrace. Adrian watched from a distance, a complex mixture of emotions twisting within him. He felt loss, regret, and yet relief. The truth, finally acknowledged, had begun to heal the wounds that had haunted them all. The house, once a fortress of secrecy and grief, now resonated with the laughter and warmth of a family slowly finding its way back to one another. Emma knew the road ahead would not be easy. Rebuilding a life after years of imprisonment, overcoming the scars of the past, and navigating the delicate dynamics with Adrian required patience, strength, and resilience. But for the first time in a decade, Emma felt hope. She had her daughter, she had a purpose, and she had reclaimed a piece of her soul that had been stolen. And as she watched Lily play in the sunlight, her laughter ringing through the halls, Emma made a silent vow. She would never let the darkness of the past overshadow the light of the future. One evening, as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Emma stood in the garden with Lily. The child ran toward her, laughing, and Emma caught her, spinning her in a circle. Adrian watched, a quiet smile on his face. "She's happy," he said softly. "She's ours," Emma replied, tears glistening. "Both of ours." Adrian nodded. "Yes, she is. And we'll make sure she always knows that." For the first time in a decade, Emma felt the weight of the past lift. She had endured prison, loss, and heartbreak, but she had reclaimed her daughter, her family, and herself. The storm that had begun with tragedy and deception had finally given way to light. Together, they faced the future not as victims of the past, but as a family bound by love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. The following day, Emma approached Adrian with the documents in hand. "You need to see this," she said calmly, though her heart raced. Adrian glanced at her, suspicious. "What is it?" "It's everything," Emma replied. "The accident, the birth, the lies. You have every right to be angry, but you need to understand what really happened." Adrian's eyes darkened as he scanned the papers. Every detail confirmed Emma's story. Every lie, every omission, every year of silence, the full truth stood before him, undeniable. "This changes nothing," he said finally, his voice low and firm. "She is my daughter. I raised her. I loved her. And now, you want to claim her?" Emma shook her head. "I'm not claiming her to take her from you. I want to be her mother, part of her life. She deserves to know me, to love both of us. She doesn't deserve to be the pawn in our anger or grief." Adrian's jaw tightened. For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, and Lily's laughter drifted faintly from another room. The days grew warmer as spring arrived. Yet inside the mansion, a storm of emotions still raged. Emma had settled into a cautious rhythm, spending her mornings cleaning and her afternoons with Lily. Adrian, though slowly warming to her presence, remained guarded, his love for the child balanced against years of pain and mistrust. Emma's heart was full, but her mind never rested. She knew that even small gestures, holding Lily's hand too long, gazing at her with affection, could provoke Adrian's ire. Each day was a careful dance, and Emma could feel the tension building toward a breaking point. One evening, Emma found herself alone in the study, sorting through boxes of old documents that Adrian had asked her to organize. Among them were letters, photographs, and legal papers. One folder, marked with Lily's mother's name. Lily herself had insisted. She knew of it, caught Emma's attention. She opened it slowly. Photographs of Lily's mother as a bride, smiling, laughing, full of life. The accident report, police statements, and medical documents confirmed the cruel chain of events that had separated her from her child. The truth, long buried beneath layers of deception, was undeniable. Emma's hands trembled. She realized the full scope of Adrian's actions, not malicious, but possessive and protective, driven by grief and a desire for revenge. He had shielded the child from her mother, believing it was right. Yet every action had caused profound pain. Weeks turned into months. Emma and Adrian learned to navigate the delicate balance of co-parenting, building a partnership based on mutual respect and the shared love of their child. Arguments remained, old wounds flared occasionally, but the foundation of honesty and compassion allowed them to move forward. Lily thrived in the presence of both parents. She learned to see them not as adversaries, but as to people who loved her deeply. Emma cherished every bedtime story, every laugh, every embrace, determined to make up for the years she had missed. Adrian, once consumed by grief and anger, began to forgive not just Emma, but himself. He realized that love, not control, was the gift he could offer his daughter. Later that afternoon, Emma found Lily in the garden, playing among the flowers. The child ran to her, arms outstretched. "Mommy," she shouted, repeating the word without hesitation this time. Emma's chest tightened, tears spilling down her face as she scooped Lily into her arms. "Yes, darling, it's me," she whispered, holding her close. Adrian watched from the doorway, silent, his expression a mixture of awe, heartbreak, and reluctant acceptance. The sound of Lily's laughter and Emma's soft whispers filled the air, and the truth, finally revealed, began to heal the wounds of years lost. Emma knew that emotional reconciliation would not be enough. She needed legal recognition of her role in Lily's life. With Adrian's reluctant agreement, they sought mediation and court approval. The process was tense, fraught with memories of betrayal, anger, and lingering mistrust. But Emma's dedication, her unwavering love for her daughter, and the undeniable truth of her maternity gradually persuaded the court. Adrian, still protective, agreed to a shared custody arrangement that allowed Emma to fully participate in Lily's life.